Seder, so I want to take our attention more to preparing the Seder and understanding what is going on exactly at the Seder night. So yesterday, Simon asked a question: why is it that we're splitting the Hallel into two? We discussed about saying Hallel, that when we are davening B'Yechidus Wednesday night, when we daven alone, so we're not going to be saying the Hallel, definitely not with a bracha, but rather saying it as part of the entire Seder. But it is the only time that we say Hallel at night, and it's the only time actually at the Seder where we split the Hallel into two. We say the first two prakim of Tehillim in the Hallel as part of Magid, and then we eat in the middle, and then we conclude the Hallel at the end, and we say Abor Pri Hagafen. It's one of the special mitzvos of the night that we actually have a kos on it. And the question is, why is the Hallel split in half? And the truth is that if you look at the night of the Seder, it's actually the whole evening is called Seder. There's an order. Seder means order. Not only are we mesader our homes, not only do we clean our homes, but there's an order to the actual night. And we have to look at that order to try to understand what is that order and what is it telling us. We're supposed to actually follow an order. We're supposed to be experiencing something, going on a journey that night. Again, whether we're eating it alone, whether we're eating it with the core family that is living with us in our home, we're going through a process. What is this process that we're going through? So if you pay a close attention, we have 4 mitzvos that are with eating in the night, and we have 4 mitzvos that are with speaking during the night. So we have speaking and eating. They both have to do with our mouth. What are these 4 mitzvos? So the 4 mitzvos of speaking, we have Kaddish, that's the Kiddush, we have a kos on it. We have the Magid, which is, again, we have a kos on that. We have benching, and we have Hallel. These are the 4 mitzvos that we have. Hallel is actually split into 2, like we said. Part of it is with Magid, and part of it is at the end. Each one of the mitzvos that we do with speaking is also a mitzvah that has a kos of yain on it. But in the middle, it's actually split into 2. We have Kaddish and Magid before. We have Hallel and benching after. And in the middle, we have the 4 mitzvos that are with eating, which is Pesach, Matzah, and Maror. And Daled Kosos. The Daled Kosos are actually dispersed and connected to the mitzvos of the speaking, but in the middle, we really have the mitzvah of Pesach, Matzah, and Maror. So we have 4 mitzvos that are with eating, we have 4 mitzvos that are with speaking, and it's split into 2, and in the middle, we do the eating. And the question is, what exactly are we trying to accomplish the night of the Seder? And I think here is something that is unbelievable when we understand the depth of what the Chachamim teach us, what this night is all about, what the Mekubalim teach us the night is all about. As we started already yesterday, this night is the night that has the potential in it to fix everything, to change the entire world. In fact, to be mitakein the world, to fix the world to its ultimate level that we're supposed to get to, at least maybe for us, for ourselves, to try to improve ourselves a little bit more. And let me explain. Because we have to understand, why is it that Bnei Yisrael went down to Mitzrayim in the first place? We have to understand what the story of the Exodus is all about and why it's such a fundamental part of our emunah, of our belief. And another thing that will help us understand that whole entire process is understanding the miracles that Moshe Rabbeinu performed in order to take us out of Mitzrayim. Because the miracles really started with one miracle. We've mentioned this in Shul in the past, which is there is one miracle that Moshe Rabbeinu did 3 times. One time he did it for himself. Second time he did it for Bnei Yisrael and for the rabbis of Bnei Yisrael, the Chachamim. And the third time he did it in front of Pyro. What's that miracle that he did 3 times? And it was the miracle that started off all of the miracles of Mitzrayim. It was the miracle of taking his staff and throwing it on the floor, and it turned into a snake. He did it by the burning bush by himself. Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem told him, what do you have? Mazeh beyadcha. It's a mata, throw it on the floor, vayila nachash, vayanas mipanav, and he jumps away from it. He does it in front of Bnei Yisrael, the Chachamim, when they ask him, how do we know that you're the true leader? And then he does it a third time when he comes to Pyro to introduce to him that here, Hashem said, let my people go, and this is my sign that I'm really coming from Hashem, because my stick, it turned into a snake. Now it was like going into Hogwarts School of Magic and trying to teach Pyro about magic. He already knew it. The Khartoumim knew how to do the same exact thing. What was so special about this miracle, that this was the miracle that started it all? This was the miracle that Moshe needed to perform 3 times. So the Ramchal in Derech Hashem actually teaches us that there's a remez here, why Bnei Yisrael needed to go down to Egypt in the first place. Because really, they didn't really do anything wrong. Avram Avinu was already promised that his grandchildren are going to go down and become slaves. Why was Avram Avinu the one who chose to follow the way of Hashem? The promise in the Bris Bein HaBeisarim, in the covenant that Hashem had with him, is that your children are going to become slaves. Why was that so important? And the Ramchal explains that this is a process of cleansing the Jewish people from the rest of the world. Because the truth is that the entire world was supposed to be on the highest level. We were supposed to be one with God. God wanted to live here in this world with us. But what happened? What happened was the sin of Adam HaRishon. And the moment Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve, eat from that tree, from the tree of knowledge, so then there's a certain darkness that entered the world. And death entered the world for the first time, because they were supposed to live forever. And there is a certain zuhama, and it says that there were generations of how it went down, and it got worse and worse until Avram Avinu came and started to bring light back into the world. And a process, Avram Avinu, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and then his children, and then they go down into Egypt, and explains in the Ramchal in Derech Hashem in Parak Dalid, and he says that this is a cleansing process that we needed to go through as a nation, sort of like when you're trying to extract gold from the gold mining. So you have to melt it down. It has to go into that burning furnace so that pure gold comes out. And that's why we needed to go down into Egypt. Now, what was the cause of the sin of Adam and Chava, of Adam and Eve? Who brought upon that sin? It was the snake. And the snake, the Mefarshim explained to us, the snake is the midah of lashon hara. He hisses with his tongue. That the midah, it was lashon hara, it was negative speech that made us do that sin, that ended us bringing us down into Galus. And the truth is that all of the exiles that Am Yisrael ever went into exile is because of negative speech. We know that sinas chinam, the Galus that we're in right now, is because of baseless hatred, which comes from lashon hara, from negative speech. We know that the first Galus, Bnei Yisrael going down into Mitzrayim, was brought about from the velo yachlu echav ledabro l'shalom, that Yosef and his brothers could not speak peacefully to one another, and that's what ended us bringing us down to Egypt. So the midah of the snake, his characteristic is evil speech. That's why his curse was. What was the curse of the snake? That he doesn't have legs. What type of curse is that? A snake can still go very, very quickly. The curse is that he can't walk straight. He has to be zigzag, because that is the midah of the snake, that he is arum mikol chayat hasadeh. He's sly. He is trickery. And the staff of Moshe represents being straight, being honest. And that's why you hold the snake by the tail and it turns back into a straight staff. The midah of Bnei Yisrael in Mitzrayim was affected. In fact, we say in the Agada that we went down into Mitzrayim, anus al pia dibur. We were forced into it. Pashup Sham means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Yaakov to go down, but also anus al pia dibur, it was negative speech in Bnei Yisrael of the Shvatim and Yosef. There was some negative speech here, and being in Mitzrayim affected us. In fact, the word paro, pei, reish, ayin, hey, when you spell it around the other way, it spells pe, ra, evil mouth. Paro, if you look at all of the agados of the children, how is Pyro drawn? He's got this big hat, and what's on top of the hat? He's got a snake over there. He represents the midah of the snake, because Pyro was always, perach, go, we'll all work together. And then he flipped it on them, and he made the Jews slaves. And then he said, okay, you could go, and you can't go, just the children. You can't. He's zigzagging back and forth. And that affected the Jewish people. That's why when Moshe Rabbeinu sees that Dasan and Aviram are fighting the next day after he kills the Mitzri, so he says, oh, why are you guys fighting? So they said, oh, are you going to kill us like you killed the Egyptian yesterday? So he says, Achei no da'adavar. Now it is revealed. So Pashup Shai, it's revealed that I did something wrong, that I killed an Egyptian. But the Medrash says, it is now revealed to me why the Jewish people are having such a hard time in exile. Because they're willing to say Lashon Hara, to speak negative about another Jew. And now I understand why they're in exile. And even Moshe Rabbeinu, when he was by the burning bush, and Hashem says, I want you to lead the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim, Moshe Rabbeinu says, well, who said that they're going to believe me? So Moshe Rabbeinu didn't believe in the Jewish people. In a way, he spoke Lashon Hara about Am Yisrael. So Hashem told him, you have to understand the process of leaving Egypt, the process of breaking free, is breaking free from our negative speech. And therefore, the nachash, the stick, is going to turn into a snake. Also, the other test that he told him is stick your hand under your arm, comes out, and he came out with tsaras. That's also, it's negative speech, because he spoke Lashon Hara. Rashi over there points it out. So the miracle happens in front of Moshe by the burning bush because he spoke Lashon Hara. He needs to show it to the Jewish people because he's telling them, we need to fix how we speak. That's why we're in exile here. So he does the miracle of the stick turning into a snake, and then he does it in front of Pyro, and he says, Pyro, your empire of evil speech, of Pera, of Pyro, is finished. We're going to be liberated. We're going to give you 10 makos, and then instead of negative speech, we're going to get the Aseres Adibros, the 10 positive aspects of speech where we could connect to Hashem, where we could talk to Hashem. It says that the Dibur was in Gullus all of the years that they were in Egypt, and now when they were able to come out, they were able to fix their speech and to stand in front of Maimon Har Sinai. And in fact, what happened at Har Sinai was that we undid the Chet of Adam Arishon. We were able to reach the level of Adam Arishon before the Chet. We were not supposed to die. We were supposed to go straight into Eretz Yisrael. That was supposed to be Yemos HaMashiach. However, we sinned by the golden calf. Because again, it started with the Erev Rav saying, oh, we need to make a God, and Moshe Rabbeinu, and it was Lashon Hara. Did he die? Did he not? So the whole avoda, the whole work of the night of Leila Seder, of leaving Mitzrayim, was fixing our speech so that we could be more connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And in fact, the work of Leila Seder is the same thing. And that's why we have the 4 mitzvos of the positive speech. Kadesh. Be mekadesh, sanctify our words. The words at the Seder night are only words of Kedusha. There are no words of Lashon Hara. It's words of Kedusha. And then we start with Magid, of saying the praise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In fact, it says, what do we call the holiday? We call it Pesach. Pesach means a talking mouth. Pesach. A talking mouth, that's how the Mekubalim explain. It's kol hamar belasaper areza meshubach. We're using our speech for praise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're using our speech to glorify God's name in this world, to say over that story to our children, to feel it ourselves. And once we've elevated our speech, now comes the second part. Because you see, the snake, his negative speech, his Lashon Hara, that he said, don't eat from that tree of knowledge, because if you eat from it, he said Lashon Hara, then you'll be like God. What does that mean? Because God himself ate from the tree of knowledge. That was the Lashon Hara that the snake said. So what caused the sin was negative speech. But what was the sin itself? The sin itself was eating forbidden food, was eating from the tree that Hashem said, do not eat. He said you could eat from anything besides from the tree of knowledge and the tree of life. So the fact that they ate was also part of the chet, and that's what we're doing the second part of the night, is fixing our eating. Now that we've elevated our speech, and the night, normally we start our meal right away with food, but not Seder night. We start with a long Haggadah, and we start with Magid, and we start learning up the Sugya, and we start learning about how many Nisim were there, how many miracles were there, Dayenu, unbelievable, Dayenu, so many miracles, and we ask questions, and we give answers. And it's all speech of glorifying God's name and coming up with new understandings of what does it mean that God took us out of Mitzrayim, that he loved us so much. Once we've elevated ourselves to be spiritual people, so then the food that we eat is coming to fix the second aspect of fixing the original sin of Adam and Chava, which was eating because we listened and we spoke Lashon Hara. And therefore, we're eating Pesach, we're eating matzah, we're eating maror. Those are the mitzvos that are mideoraisa to eat. There's not many mitzvos. In fact, these are the only times where the mitzvah says, where the Torah says you have a commandment to eat something specific. Eat matzah, eat maror, and eat the korban Pesach. We don't have korban Pesach, so we have the afikoman as a zecher, but we have a mitzvah to eat those things. Once we've elevated our eating, now the eating, which is a physical thing, became a spiritual activity. And what happens when we eat something? It goes down into our system, and it gives us energy and strength, and that gives us the ability now that the next level of speaking, of continuing the Hallel that we started with Magid on a much higher level. And the Gemara says that when they used to sing the Hallel in Yerushalayim, they went up to the rooftop, and it used to like break through the heavens because they were on such a high level that they lifted their physicality. Their physical being of eating became a spiritual experience, and they were able to praise Hashem with the Hallel and with the benching and saying thank you to Hashem on the highest level possible. And that's why it was the night that they could reach the highest levels of connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And in fact, Reb Tzadok says that this is the core of our life, because our lifeline is actually based on our two channels that connect between the mind and the body, between the head and the body, between the mind and the heart, which are what we have over here. I don't know how to say it in English. The kana and the veshet, the trachea and the seraph, I don't know, whatever it is. The kana and the veshet, and one is for breathing, for speaking, and the other one is for eating. We have two eyes, they only see one thing. We have two ears, they only hear one thing. We have two nostrils, they only smell one thing. We have only one mouth, but it has a dual purpose for intaking food and for breathing in and out air, but for speaking our mind out into the world, for intaking physicality and for bringing out spirituality. This is exactly what life is all about, and that's what the Seder night is all about. It's about perfecting ourselves. What is our life all about? What are we here in this world for? What are we trying to accomplish? And I think this year, this Pesach Seder, more than any other year, this is the test. What am I eating? What am I living for? What am I trying to accomplish? What's coming out of my mouth? And when we are able to perfect who we are personally, when we're able to reach a high level of connecting to Hashem through positive speech, of glorifying God's name, of refraining from negative speech about other people, but also negative speech about ourselves, the negative speech of I can't do this, and it's too much, and it's too hard, and it's not for me, and learning, that's not for me, and daf yomi, that's too much. All the negative speech that we speak to ourselves also stifles us and keeps us in Mitzrayim. The night of the Seder is the night of positive speech, of glorifying God's name and saying, I could do this, and we could break free, and understanding that even our physical world could be lifted up to a spiritual realm. That's exactly what the Seder night is all about. And that's why the Hallel is split into two, because we start the Hallel as part of Magid, of glorifying God's name, but then we turn it into a physical spiritual experience. It's not just a spiritual experience, and it's not a physical experience. It's a spiritual, physical, ultimate spiritual experience. That is the order, I believe, is what we're trying to accomplish Seder night. That is what we're going to try to accomplish this year. And this year, perhaps more than any other year, this is our job. This is our destiny, to be clear with what is our mission in this world. It doesn't matter what stage we are in our lives. We could always be doing a little extra to be mashpia, to influence our families, to influence our friends, to influence ourselves, to strive to have a stronger connection with the creator and the master of the universe, and a stronger connection with other Jews that are around us. And then we'll be able to live our lives to the fullest, to have all the energy and all the simcha in our lives, and to be zocha to see Mashiach Tzidkenu b'mheira b'yameinu amen. This was a little bit of an inspirational, hopefully, an inspirational talk that's supposed to prepare us for the Seder night. If I was to give a Shabbos HaGadol Drasha maybe I would be talking about similar topics as well. And it is a pleasure, a real pleasure for me to sit here and to see your faces and to share these words of inspiration. And hopefully it was clear. Simon, I hope it answered your question. I see your comment that you're saying that it's beautiful. I'm going to take us off of mute right now. If you want to do any background talking, so you can mute yourself. If not, I'll just be muting you. But it's really, really a pleasure to be sharing these thoughts and these feelings together with you, because this is really what Pesach is all about. And I just feel honored to be a part of this kehila, and I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to always be preparing for this meetup, because it's giving me an opportunity to prepare my mind for the Seder.